Rangers drop points, and we can't even capitalise on that, Ryan. Hi, they drew 1-1.
See, because I set my phone at the side when I'm watching a screen because we don't really want spoilers.
They conceded a 90th minute penalty. They dropped points, so we had the chance to, maybe get back in the title race today, Ryan. We had the chance,
The 10 was still on, mate.
The 10 was on, and then we go out there today. And I don't have any words for the performance. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I'm joined here with Ryan McGinley. As you can see, we're doing things a bit differently for the post-match reaction. We're just going to be talking absolute nonsense, ranting away for 10, 20 minutes or so. Getting everything off our chest about what was... Honestly, Ryan, it just gets more dreadful to watch, more dire to watch every single week, doesn't it?
That was the most turgid, most boring, uninspiring 90 minutes I've ever watched in my life, honestly. And there has been some terrible performances this season, but there's been no fight. And tonight was just even worse. It was awful.
Look, just before we go any further, Padraig McFadden, who was on the first ever phone-in for the Celtic Thunder podcast, he was actually the first ever call. He's donated €2 and said $12.99 to watch that. I feel bad that you've actually donated another €2 to just say that, but thank you very much, Padraig. Look, it's embarrassing. I didn't know what was worse, the quality of the stream that I was watching or the game itself. To be honest, I was glad it was freezing every 2 seconds. I was watching it with my dad for the first time in quite a few weeks. We've not watched the football in quite a while. And both of us were just kind of in disbelief as the game went on. Watching how poor we were, watching how, as you used a great word, turgid, we were so lethargic. Defensively, how many times we were left wide open. Going forward, Ryan, I don't have words at this point anymore. We have well and truly threw in the towel.
Absolutely. The towel is thrown so far away, mate. But there was a point with that corner. Was it a corner? And then Greg Taylor. Yeah. Where were the fullbacks? It was like one of those...
We were saying the same thing at the weekend. Where were the fullbacks? Do fullbacks exist, Ryan? Do we actually know what a fullback is here at Celtic?
I think Johnny Hayes is honestly a better fullback than the ones that we've got now.
Look, listen, I was saying me and my dad were big fans of Johnny Hayes, right? And I know at some point it seemed like a more ironic thing, and it seemed like more of a jokey thing with me and Johnny Hayes. Look, Christ, he's up here in the wall. I've still got him there. I loved Johnny Hayes, and all I could think of as I watched him in points today is if we had him this season, it wouldn't have made a difference as to where we were in the league, but it certainly would have created a better sort of headache for the fullbacks this season, because I think Johnny Hayes, after 5 or 10 games, would establish himself as the starting left back at Celtic Football Club. We have been dreadful all over the park, but these fullbacks, as we've just touched on, I feel like they don't exist.
You could make the same case for Simonovic. I know he's not got another club, but even if he was in and around the team, he would have probably, in hindsight, been a better centre half than Duffy, because at least he has a wee bit of pace, like a tiny bit of pace.
Yep.
Opposed to Duffy, who's got nothing. I've not seen Duffy in weeks. Is he still about?
He popped up on the bench against Livingston last week in my watch along when I was actually happy as a human being. I was like, oh, there's Big Duffy. I'm even happy to see him. Honestly, I think we should just shove him back in the team for the sake of it the last couple of games, because what is there to actually care about these last couple of games? We knew that was going to be the case post the Scottish Cup exit. We knew that it was going to be nothing heading into these games. But when we knew it was going to be nothing, I think we'll start. We're going to go right back to the start here tonight. We're going to go right back to before the first ball was even kicked at Pittodrie this evening. Also, if you want to get your opinion in, make sure to drop a message in the chat towards the end. Me and Ryan will probably jump through some questions, but I can bring stuff up on screen for you guys to get involved. If you also can, make sure super chat and donate. If you want, like and subscribe, though, that is the most important thing. Let's go right back to before the ball was even kicked, Ryan. We were all crying out for John Kennedy to experiment with the team tonight.
He said it himself.
He said it himself. What was the changes? Barkas off the bench. Was that the change?
Well, to be fair, we did get 8 minutes of Karamoko Dembele. We haven't had that this season. We're self-entitled, remember? We got 8 minutes of an actual right winger for a change today. Yep.
I didn't actually catch the last sort of that period of the game. I got in just as Griffiths scored. So was it actually exciting seeing Dembele? Because I was listening to the radio at that point because I left Stevie so I could get down to stream this.
He done so much better than Ryan. I only play in a Scotland top, Christie, honestly. He done more in the game than Christie did. I don't know if you missed the Turnbull. Turnbull kicked out at McGeoch.
I heard that. I heard on the radio people were
Probably
debating
should have
whether
been
or not
sent
it
off
should
as
have been a
well.
yellow or a red card. I heard them talking about it. I can't remember who it was. Oh Christ, Willie Miller. I think he was saying he didn't think it was a red card, so I just kind of backed him, and I was like, must not be a red. But now hearing you say that, I'm like, well, maybe it was.
Petulant. It was one of those ones that maybe it wasn't that sort of game that there was a lot of kicking in that, so maybe in isolation it was only like a yellow card given the way the game was going. But aye.
Let's go to the rest of the team selection tonight. Scott Brown, why is he playing against his future employers? Why is he playing against the team that he is moving to? Why is he playing ultimately when he's not going to be here? It doesn't matter that it's against Aberdeen. The fact is, we've got a young lad like Ismaila Soro on the bench who should be in there trying to get a chance, trying to show us if he's good enough to be a starting midfielder for Celtic next season. And we're simply putting that to the side for none other than a little bit of nostalgia, maybe a little bit of what's the word we always use again? What's that word? Sentimentality. That's the word. Is that it now?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair to Brown, I think he linked up with Lewis Ferguson a couple of times tonight, which was quite nice to see that they've already started being on the same wavelength. I mean, there was a point that he passed the ball basically straight to Ferguson and he hits the post. Like, what is going on? I mean, Soro, what age is Soro? 21, 22, sitting on the bench. He should be getting some games into his legs before the end of the season. I mean, I know the more I think about it, the more I think that John Kennedy won't be around next season, because if he was going to be around next season as a coach, he'd be playing the youngsters.
You'd feel like he'd be doing as much as he can to impress not only the board and the people who are now going to be above him, but to also impress the fans so that they're happy about him staying around. But he's not doing that. Nobody was happy with the starting lineup tonight. Nobody was happy with the performance. Christ, as we've already mentioned, potentially the worst one we've had all season, potentially the worst to watch. You know, surely you'd want to go out with a bit of optimism with the fans and a little bit of encouragement for the fans that you are sticking around.
I know, even with Dyla, I remember when Dyla said at the end of the season, I was leaving at the end of the season, he brought through Christie and he was starting to play some of the youngsters. He played Aitchison. I know in hindsight, Aitchison didn't even have really a career at Celtic, but he still played the youngsters, this sort of next generation or this next batch of players coming through. It seems like Kennedy's just going with the tried and tested, the tried, tested and failed this season, you could say.
I feel like we could link that back all day to maybe the kind of problems that have been so stained into the club over the past couple of years. We could sit here and talk about where these problems start, and we could sit here and talk about Neil Lennon as much as we want in regards to that. So it's such a weird one, but it was just a 90 minutes where there was nothing we were so lethargic. I'll bring that word back up again. We had no real imagination in the final third. I am now starting to understand why so many people are kind of aggrieved towards Edouard as well. Not that I'm, as I've said in the last podcast, not that I'm suddenly going to say, oh, he's lazy and all the rest of it, because I know he's not that kind of player. But we're now at the point when it's coming to these final four games that you can understand that he clearly wants away. Like, yeah. I think we've all came to understand that to an extent. But there was no real imagination in that final third, Ryan. And as much as we've been kind of banging on the door and banging that drum, I should say, that the season's over, there's nothing to play for, you still kind of hope that when the first whistle goes that they're going to go out and try and be entertaining. They're trying to score goals. Am I kind of lost in saying that? Should we expect these lethargic performances?
It's the bare minimum to ask for a performance. This is what they get paid tens of thousands of pounds a week for. I mean, they should be going out and playing for the jersey. I know that's maybe a cliche, and maybe there isn't as much of that sort of like passion in the game as there used to be in terms of playing for the badge and stuff. But come on, don't embarrass yourselves by going out and being as turgid as that.
Yep.
I was thinking about something then that's completely went away. Edouard. I don't think Edouard is trying to throw games away, but it's a difficult psyche to have or to shake off once you're in that sort of mindset that you're not putting in 100%. It's difficult to get yourself G'd up because he's and a couple of the chances that he had, he still looks disappointed when he hasn't scored.
Yep, you can tell. Yeah, I was going to actually mention that when I said the reason I don't want to suddenly go, he doesn't care, he's lazy, and all these kind of same cliches we hear about Edouard is because I think you can still read the disappointment in him when things aren't going his way. And yeah, that's mostly his fault, perhaps, for not doing things leading up to that. But you can tell it still is hurting him, and I think that's just a clear sort of kind of a nice bit of imagery to sum up how everybody's feeling inside the club.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, I think Edward just basically sums up the whole team. They've all chucked it basically, and we've got to sort of endure this. I'm just glad that more people didn't need to watch this. I feel like we've kind of taken one for the team, because a lot of people maybe didn't tune in tonight. Maybe they'd much rather go and watch the Celtic women's team, and I'm glad that they've went and won tonight. I didn't know about that until like 10 minutes ago as well. Like, I feel so disconnected not being on my phone during a game. I'm so used to being on my phone during games now that when I don't do that.
Both of us have got to the point now, both of us, I think we can agree with this, we've just become like Twitter warriors during the game. Like, all I can do is tweet away how angry I am. I put up a tweet at one point in the game tonight just saying, I am in severe pain watching this. Like, and that is how I genuinely felt. Like, I feel like they're giving me nothing. My job on this channel for the last 5 years has to be sit down after games, and I've picked it. Like, do you know what the funny thing is, Ryan? I know, like, I don't know how long you've been sort of following the channel, but the funny thing is that I never used to do match previews or reviews for games that weren't like the bigger games. This is the season I finally started doing it. I'm like, right, I'm going to get right into my analyst mode, and I'm going to start doing things right. Celtic, just like tonight, have given me so little to analyse. They've given me so little to talk about, because it's either the same thing every week or it's incredibly poor and there is generally nothing to analyse. Like, what was there tonight to analyse? Nothing. We don't do anything when we have the ball, and then off the ball, we're just as bad.
Nothing to get excited for. There's nothing in the team that gets me excited for games. The only excitement I got was Turnbull playing again, but even then, there's too much pressure getting put on his shoulders. You can see that he's the only creative force in that team, and you saw when Rogic came on later on in the game, he done nothing. He's such a luxury player. He just saunters about. He's a futsal player playing in a game that, in a time that I think's passed by. I think his expiry date is long gone. I think we should have got the 8 million that was there in the summer. I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but
aye, of course. We all thought we kind of got something. We got a little bit of something when he got back into the team mind and around the Scottish Cup semi-final. We all thought that, oh, this might actually be the kickstart of something, a little bit of form for the guy, and it just wasn't, was it? It was just, no. I think we've seen from there now that you put it really well, the expiry date thing. It's just that feels like the situation.
That's the thing. There seems like there's an expiry date with loads of these players that's piled up at the one time, and the one season that we didn't want this to happen. There should have been replacements in positions. There's far too many players that are too comfortable in the team. I think, although Brown's leaving at the end of the season, it doesn't seem as if there's any competition for that place. It's like Brown will play every game now, and that doesn't help the team. Every position is better when there's another man fighting for the jersey. You could even say that with Forrest. Forrest was better when Roberts was breathing down his neck. You got the best out of Forrest in those games, and competition is so important in a team. And there just doesn't seem to be any competition. Players are just getting in the team regardless. You could say that for Christie. Christie just goes in if Forrest's injured, and
it's like they get in. Sometimes I feel like they're getting in for what they've done in the past, for their name, perhaps. Like, we always talk about how that thing happens always down in the south in England. I feel like sometimes that happens with us. The reason Rogic is still cutting about is because what he's done in the past.
I can't even make that example with Griffiths because he scored tonight.
We'll come on to that.
My agenda will rest for tonight.
We'll come on to that in a moment, because we're going to have to talk about the equaliser and perhaps the only positive of the game, because there'll be people watching this going, oh, you've got to be positive at least. The positive for me was that Johnny Hayes was good tonight. God bless you, Johnny Hayes, as Keen Burn says. A £2 donation for Football Prime Ginger. Hi, Ryan, can you check the DMs on Insta? I will have a look after this. The one thing that I wanted to come on to, and I wanted to go over, was and we've kind of alluded to this, and we've spoke about the lack of urgency and everything else around the team. But who wants it at Celtic? Who actually wants it? Turnbull? Is that it? He was the only one for me who showed maybe a bit of desire tonight to be in that team and to win for this team. And that even goes in regards to his potential red card tackle. That little burst of anger, that flow of blood to the head, that's what Celtic are needing. I'm not saying go out and kick opponents off the park and break their legs and all that, but we don't have that, do we? And I mean, who wants to be here? Who wants to play?
I mean, Stephen Welsh obviously wants to be here. He's a childhood Celtic fan. He's a massive fan of the club. But I feel like he's benefit. I don't want to criticise him or anything, because he's not really put a foot wrong. But I feel like he's benefited a lot for the shortcomings this season. Like, maybe in seasons gone by with a better defence, he wouldn't be getting into the team. And I think he is a good squad player, and I think he is improving. but I don't think he's going to be this world beater that maybe some fans think he might be. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, he's only a year younger than Christopher Ajer, and you look at the amount of games.
You can't expect Turnbull to do everything. We are genuinely giving David Turnbull the ball, it seems. That seems to be our attacking outlet. We give the ball to Turnbull and hope for the best. That's it.
It is Turnbull and inshallah. That is it. That is our tactics nowadays. It has been since November.
Yep, it has been.
Now you're starting to see, I don't know if you've noticed it, but you're seeing Turnbull maybe not putting in as good performances as he did when he first arrived on the scene, because there's far too much pressure put on him. He should be just one of many outlets in a Celtic attacking side that's free-flowing. We don't have that free-flowing attacking. I mean, El Yunusi as well tonight, apart from his assist for the goal, he done absolutely nothing. Yeah. And he needs to be turning up in games against Aberdeen. It's all good doing it against Livingston, where you can stat pad against Livingston and score 2 goals. But if you can't do it against Rangers and Aberdeen, then you're not really going to last.
I must admit, I'm still clinging on to that whole feeling of we don't have the width for El Yunusi, because I still feel like that is a big issue. But look, there's only so many times you can use these sorts of excuses, and it just gets tiresome, as has the whole season. It's just been tiresome. I'm generally just sick of watching it, and you touched on the point about the attacking sort of the support for Turnbull and what we do in that final third. You touched on that there. It makes you wonder, with Edouard leaving, with El Yunusi leaving, with potentially even the likes of Christie leaving, how many, and when you watch that performance tonight, it makes you worry, and it makes you look and go, how many years is it going to take to sort this? How many years is it going to take till we have attacking football that works?
I mean, you might get shot down for being negative here and that, but it's realistic. Rebuilds don't happen in a year in any sport whatsoever. Like, you see Liverpool under Klopp, how many years did it take for him before he won the league?
Well, it was quite. He was judged quite quickly in his first couple of years, wasn't he?
I mean, for him, 3rd and 4th was a good position. I'm not saying we're going to finish 3rd and 4th. That won't happen. It'll be 2nd at least.
Well, you hope. You fucking hope.
Although Hibs are doing well and Aberdeen look like they've got a wee bit about them now, and maybe Stephen Glass will improve on them next season, but I think it's a couple of seasons before we maybe dominate again. I don't know, dominate maybe 3 or 4 years before we're absolutely dominating, but a couple of years before we're challenging again, because I don't see Rangers going out and selling a lot of their players next season, especially with the prospect of the Champions League. All of a sudden, they're going to get 30 million. They don't need to sell. They can entertain massive offers for their players. We're in trouble here. I don't know if it's just me that sees it, but we're in trouble of being left behind in some points.
And that is one of the things that we've not even touched on in this stream today. And we kind of touched on in yesterday's podcast, but it's scary. And I put up a tweet at some point, I think right at the start of the game. We still can't defend. Half of our players want to leave. We've got a new CEO who started on Monday, who has had nothing said yet. We've had silence from the club. We've not got anywhere closer to a manager, it seems.
No.
Where are we right now? This is, as you said, it's scary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're in complete purgatory. We can either go to heaven or hell with this. We are literally in the middle of the road.
Yep.
It all depends on the next appointment. I just hope something gets... I just want to see like an exclusive story coming out tonight that'll make me excited about football again, because I don't know about you, but I'm glad we're not playing at the weekend, because this team is absolute torture. I do not enjoy watching Celtic. Watching Celtic used to be the highlight of my week. Now it's watching TV shows that come out on a Friday on Disney Plus. That is the highlight of my week. Celtic have ripped the heart out of it for me this season, and it's going to be very difficult to get that sort of passion back, because I feel like it's taken a massive hit this season.
Well, we're going to come on to take some questions from everybody watching. By the way, we've got over 200 viewers, and we've had about 200 viewers for the entire stream. So thank you very much, everybody who has been watching. This will obviously be up on the channel afterwards if you've missed the first portion of it. So start piling in some questions, and me and Ryan will answer them over the next kind of 5 minutes before we end the stream. Very quickly, Ewan Stars donates £5. Massive thank you very much, Ewan. He says, on Monday, I started raising money for Cash for Kids, doing 5k a day until the 14th of May. Raised £220 so far, and £400 is my target. Hail, hail. Well done, mate. That's superb. I love to see it. And for a good cause, of course. We didn't even, before we do get the questions, and if anybody wants to throw in questions, I mean, I think that's a bit much, is it not? 400 grand a week at Spurs surely wasn't on that much. Surely.
I don't see Josie being the highest earner at the football club when Harry Kane's there.
I know. I don't think it would be 400. I mean, I've been championing him all day. You know, the special one. He's coming home to Celtic. We're getting Josie. Although some people say they wouldn't take him, which is quite frankly weird.
They would take Lennon, but they wouldn't take Josie, all because Lennon was a Celtic man. This is the problem. This is why we are in this position now.
That we're in. So get your questions in. Finally, before we do get the questions, actually, because I did want to ask you, we had completely kind of just went away from the only positive of the game, and that was that last minute equaliser from none other than your favourite player, Ryan, Lee Griffiths. You happy to see? I put up a tweet. We TK Geese a goal, and he gave us it.
Yep. I mean, it was a bit silly going and celebrating a goal. We got a 90th minute winner against Aberdeen in a game that we should be going out and beating Aberdeen, especially with the turmoil they've been having this season when their manager going out and that. We should be beating Aberdeen, but it's just where we're at the moment. Celebrating a draw against Aberdeen.
It's sickening.
We used to beat Aberdeen.
It's no sickening. Sickening's not the word. Saddening. I know Aberdeen's a team who over the past 4 or 5 years we have terrorised. You know,
Aberdeen used to be happy getting beat 1-0 off of us because we didn't go out and cuff them. Literally.
Yeah, it's just a sad decline. It's like the state of affairs we have found ourselves in. You couldn't have convinced me at the start of the season this was going to happen. You could not have convinced me. Not at all.
Like I said earlier, maybe on the podcast yesterday, I'm not sure if I said it or not, a disastrous season for us was not winning any cups and winning the league by single figures. This is a complete nightmare. Like, I wasn't expecting us to be, what was it? What are we behind? Is it still 20 points behind?
Yep. It's just, aye.
I mean, like, still.
And it could have been worse tonight. Just imagine that Rangers didn't concede a 90th minute winner, and a 90th minute equaliser. We didn't score a 90th minute equaliser tonight. Oh man, that would have been significant shite that we would have had to build with.
I'm just thinking of the points differential between last season and this season. I know the season was curtailed in March, but that is 33 points between last season and this season. That is horrendous. How has that happened?
It's wonders never cease. That's what I think every single game. I will get a couple of questions in before we finish off. Mazar says, "Can we get Enzo Maresca? And if how isn't coming?" Is that the choo-choo?
That's the Enzo Express.
Is that the Enzo Express? Aye. Can we get Enzo Maresca? And if how isn't coming? Man City youth team have won the league once again by some distance. There you go, Ryan. You've been championing Maresca for quite a while. Big fan.
I think if we can't get Howe, then Maresca would be a perfect fit, especially with the talk of Fergal Harkin coming in as the director of football. If you put 2 and 2 together, they've already worked together because he works as the sort of loanee liaison officer. So he'll deal with a lot of the players that Maresca manages in the EFL too. So it would probably make sense, but only as like a second option. Like the fact that Eddie Howe's been talked about and that we've had meetings with him down in London and he's agreed to take the job in principle. If we don't get him, it'll be really disappointing.
It'll be very embarrassing to add into this season as well. I'll have it ready. I'm sitting here making fucking collages just here on Twitter. But I'm looking for it again. Mobster has asked, do you think Dembele should start more games? I'll excuse the fact he's put Ryan 188 rather than 118.
I should maybe trademark that. I'll be Ryan 188.
That's you, hi.
Maybe that's
I thought you'd be a 119 to be fair, but I mean you can have that.
Because I seen 117 on the stream the other week.
That's right, aye. So do you think Dembele should start more games?
But at the same time, Dembele's only contracted until June, so he'll be gone in the summer. So at the same time, he's
because just to throw out there, I don't think there's any convincing him to stay anymore. I think that ship sailed.
No, I think he'll go abroad. I think he'll go to maybe like a Lille or something. I know he was linked there, or maybe an Italian team to go ply his trade because they know how to. Well, they've got a gateway for youngsters going into the team. So why would they stay at Celtic where youngsters only get a chance if loan signings fail, or if we breach COVID rules and go abroad to Dubai?
£2.
That's the only chances they get.
Yep. $2 donation once. Sorry, €2 donation once again from the absolute legend that is Padraig McFadden. Thank you very much, Padraig. He says, should have had McGinn and Tony. Yep, that's it's all spiraling together this season, isn't it?
Call me controversial, but I would add Glenn Kamara to that list as well, because we had the chance to sign him later on in that transfer window, the same as McGinn. So that was two midfielders that we missed out on. Now, I know maybe to a lesser extent you could say Kamara, but we went and signed Malumbu.
Yep.
Malumbu wasn't one for the future. That was a mental signing looking back on it. I remember he came on against Leipzig and he looked like a headless chicken. He was running about as if he didn't know where he was.
He wasn't the level required. At all, even at that age.
It's a sad indictment that the fact that he ran over the top of us when we were playing against Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a sad indictment rather than the fact he's a good player. I mean, he is still a decent player and he can do a job in any given day, but it's just a sad indictment of the way things were, and it shows that there was problems even with Brendan Rodgers, and these have just came to the fore even more so this season.
I hate comments like this. Jose's a prima donna, wouldn't last 5 minutes in Celtic Park. Look, let me just clear it clearly very quickly. I don't think that Jose Mourinho will become Celtic manager. Just let me clarify that. But that kind of comment is nonsense. That Jose Mourinho wouldn't last 5 minutes at Celtic Park. This is arguably the greatest manager of our generation that we're talking about here. He's a winner, a born winner, and he's simply amazing. So just say that, but I don't expect it to be at Celtic Park anyway.
What I would say is that if we were getting Jose Mourinho, we would be getting a Jose Mourinho that's had his ego hurt, that would have fire in his belly because he's been sacked from his past two managerial jobs. It might even be more than two managerial jobs he's been sacked of. In fact, it is, because it was Chelsea as well before he got the Man United job.
Yep, that's right.
We'd be getting a manager that has a point to prove and wants to get his reputation sort of back on track. So I don't think it'd be the worst move if we were to get him. It's Jose Mourinho at the end of the day.
I think it's just a dream at the end of the day. It's not going to happen. But look, we've went for about 27 minutes. We go any longer, we'll be turning this into a special edition of the podcast. So Ryan, before we go off the air, your final words on tonight's performance, and how excited are you just to be close to the end of the season, mate?
One of the words there used, how. That's just what I want. All I want is Eddie Howe. Please, just can we get I don't even want to mention the news outlets, but can we get one of those exclusives, please, saying that it's done, just so I can get a wee bit excited for the rest of the games, that I can say, at least we've got Eddie Howe next season. But this tonight was just a disaster again. I mean, we got a point, but I said in one of my tweets, I actually felt quite gutted for Aberdeen because they deserved to win the game. We deserved nothing out of that game. No,
nothing at all. Right, well, that's me. I am just dead inside. I'm hurt inside. Same. I just can't be bored with the end of the season now. I just want it over and done with, as we keep saying. As we've been saying since fucking January, to be quite honest. But that's it. Lads, thank you very much for tuning into this live special of the 3 Things We've Learned match review series. Ryan, thank you very much for joining me. It's been a pleasure. I'm going to just end the broadcast now in deafening silence, because that's all that I like nowadays. So, see you later next time. Bye.